Well, good morning. This morning we're in the shop. It's a day after Thanksgiving, 2025. And today I think we're gonna make a pen. I got some components here and some directions. These are the instructions that come with the pen kit. And it tells you the components that you need and how to lay them out and how to do the assembly. So the first thing this is gonna ask for is lay out the parts. So we got them laid out here. I got the tip, the couplers, the mechanism that extends the tip, got the spring and the ink cartridge, the top of it. This one is called, I got this from Penn State Industries, and it is called the Sculpted pen. So as you can see, it's got some pretty good design on it. Easy to make. Takes two separate tubes. You see the brass tubes. They've already pre-sanded them. In the old days, they didn't sand them, so you have to take a 150 grit sandpaper and sand to roughen up the surface so the CA glue, when you glue it into the wood, it holds better. So we do got to pick out some wood for this, and we'll have to get the components ready to. We're going to need it says a 8mm drill bit. We'll need one of those. We'll need this device here. It's got a carbide cutter on there, and it fits exactly in the tube. So once you have the wood on there, you bring this down the piece of wood and get it exactly 90 degrees to the tube. So when you put the components together, you don't have a uneven gap around there. It gets it perfectly flat. So we got that. Got some CA glue to glue the tubes into the wood, and I got some activator that instantly cures the CA glue, also known as super glue. So that's what we got this morning, and we're gonna do, I think, maybe an inlay in the pen in the wood to make it a little fancier. Here's a close-up of the pen components. See them a little more clearly here, and the directions. It shows how they go together. Let's go grab that 8mm bit that it's calling for, the drill bit, and I got those, all the different sizes over here. As you can see, there's an 8mm right there. Grab that. These are I have lots of drill bits, but these are the special ones for making different pens and different stuff that has kits. So some of those are very specific that you wouldn't have normally in the, some are 8mm, 10mm, 10.5. Some of them are pretty good size there. Anyway, I keep them over there so I can find them quickly. I have the regular drill bits, and then I got this kit here that has all the letters, numbers, and fractional all in one. The other thing for woodworking is you like the ones with the brad points on them. So you can see the tips. It helps you line it up to the very center. You'll see as we get these wood blanks prepared how we use those tips for an advantage. So I'll put this 8mm over here by this little drill press I got that we'll drill the holes through the wood to put those tubes in a little vise. I replaced the jaws on this vise with some oak ones rather than metal ones, that didn't mar up the piece of wood as much. And then you can replace them if you accidentally drill into them or get CA glue on them or whatever. You can make some new set of jaws pretty easily. Got a little bandsaw here. I made up this miter. It doesn't go with this saw, but I just measured the slot, put a piece of maple or something in there, made a replaceable fence that's larger, as you can see, saw into it, and I got this set 60 degrees. So if I want to when I do some of the inlays, we'll do a 60-degree cut, and if that gets too cut in there too many times, I'll just flip it around or make a new one, throw the piece of wood away. So now we got to come up with some wood to use for this pen. And I got this tray. These are all old cutoffs and stuff. They're just scrap pieces that I use to make some inlays with. Keep them around in a baggie. Keep them in a baggie and then sort them out in this tray. So I try to do a contrasting wood from the body. And these are just some Bethlehem olive wood offcuts. They're not too expensive, and I keep those too. Some of the grain in them is very interesting. I think for today we are going to choose, this is tulip wood here, and we'll insert some of these tulip wood pieces. They're kind of cool. Got good grain in them. So we'd like to use, I guess for the main body, something that's light colored. Let's see if we go light and dark. Put these over here with the rest of our stuff, and we'll see if we can't go find a blank over here. I keep the blanks over here for the pens. Some of this wood's pretty cool. There's some purple heart. We're looking for something a little lighter. You see some of the tulip wood. Some are acrylic. You see the different pieces here. Here's something that's pretty light. This one, what is this? It says, Curly Maple. Oh, so you can see, I don't know if you can see it on here, but it's got like a, when you turn it, it like changes color a little bit when you machine it. Let's try it. Let's see if we got one of the, if we can use this piece. I think that might be a good contrast here. Just darken the light, lay that in there because it's going to be light colored like that. So we'll see what we can do with that. The other thing you got to do is you got to line up the pieces and make sure that the piece of wood you pick is long enough to fit the two tubes. And this one, it looks like it's going to be a little short, so we can add a block on the end like so. And then of course when we cut this and put the inserts in here, it'll make it longer. I think it'll come out long enough when we're done. Anyhow, we'll see how it comes out. These little bags, all the components come individually bagged. They come in this bigger bag. That's a sculpted pen kit from Penn State Industries. And so each component comes individually bagged so they don't scrape with each other, against each other in shipping. The other thing we're going to need is we're going to need a set of bushings. You can see the call out here. It's got bushings in there so you can turn the wood down to the proper size so the components match up. And on the other side of the paper, it gives you the dimensions of the bushings and the part number for those. And the bushings, this is Penn State Industries. So most of my pen kits come from them. Some do come from Woodcraft. I keep them over here in these storage bins. You can see I got it, Penn State Industry bushings and the Woodcraft bushings. So I'll go in here. There's a lot in there. Oops, come here, you. And this is going to be 3-piece bushing for the sculpted pen. So these are the right ones. Yeah, knock that off, darn it. Okay. 3-piece bushing for sculpted pen kit. So those are the bushings we'll be using. So let's go ahead and start. The next thing will be to start on the inlays. So we're going to start, let's get rid of these baggies. And one of the things you want to do, my dust mask here, start cutting wood, we'll get that dust mask on. Hopefully you'll be able to hear with it on. One of the things I like to do is I like to mark the piece of wood, because when you get this two separate halves, I like to line the grain up. So in order to do that, we'll measure off the bottom one. We'll include this spacer I'm going to put on the bottom to make the piece of wood long enough. I just put a line across here like that, and then I'll put another one, that's where I'm going to cut it, and put one going long ways like this. You could even use a Sharpie. So you're going to turn that wood off so you don't have to worry about getting rid of the line, because obviously the pen's not going to be this big around. Pen's going to be smaller like this. So put that line there, and then when it's done, we'll be sure when we turn them, we'll turn it with the bushings and then match those two halves back up. So this is called, this end's gonna be the tip. So it's got the small bushing on the tip, and then the smaller of the bushings is gonna go towards the tip, and the fat end's gonna go towards the top, the cap. So that'll be like that. Put this bushing pack over there. It's gonna be here. And this is the fat bushing for the top. It's gonna go here. So next thing you want to do is we're gonna cut the diagonal. We're gonna cut a 60 degrees from the bandsaw. We'll cut this diagonally across here, and that's where the first inlay, one of these pieces, is gonna go. We'll probably need to prep these. They're not exactly the flat and the same thickness, so I'll run these on the belt sander real quick. Okay, they're not perfect, but close enough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the diagonal cut on the bandsaw. Set this up in here. We want it towards the top of the insert, so we got a diagonal cut about like that. I got this little sander. That's some 220 on there. I'm just gonna polish it up. Just want to make sure that it's nice and flat because we're gonna glue these pieces into it. So we're going to glue that on there with CA glue, something like that. Then we'll glue the other half to it and then cut it again. So put this little piece of plastic up here. Keep the CA glue off the table as much as possible. Nobody wants that. So it doesn't matter which piece you glue it on first, but this is easier to handle, so I'll glue it on here. So we just put some CA glue on here. For this pretty liberal, the CA glue. I'd be running low on this bottle. It's all right, I got backup. Or maybe there's a clog in there. Doesn't seem like it should be. The hole's pretty small. Oh, there we go. Got a piece of chunk in there. So it's going to leak out when you squeeze it on there, of course. So that's why it's good to have this. Some you don't care about getting the glue on. So you just squeeze it together like that. Doesn't have to be in the very exact center. You got to turn that way down anyway. And just take some CA Cure, Instant Cure. Some quick sprays like that. And it's instantly dried on there. You can see we have it in there like that. I'll glue the other half on. More glue on this side. Suckers. clogging up on me. Do that again. Oh, this piece. And there you go. You got them glued together. Now we'll cut it the other way. Make sure they're nice and flat. Get that on. Touch it to the bandsaw real quick. Touch it on the belt sander so it lays good on the bandsaw table when we cut it. We'll cut it the other direction. So now we've cut through the one we put in there. We're going to add the other insert in there. Do the same thing. This little palm sander. Check both sides. Yep, looks like it's going to work. Some more glue on here. See, that's about how much glue. Push this on there, it'll spread to the edges and leak out, so do the other half. Oh, cap back on here. There's that. So now it's glued up. We're going to put it on the belt sander and get everything square. And then we'll cut the two halves. See, even with those two inserts, we're just, let's see if we can show that. You can see we're slightly long, so we still got to glue that piece on the bottom. Go ahead and might as well go ahead and do that. Well, we got everything here. We could do it after we cut it. We'll just do it now. That way we'll make sure we have everything the right length. So around the tip of the pen, you're going to have this insert. Squeeze that together. There you go. Oops, not quite tight cured yet. Pretty good. Flatten her out. So you can see, sanded the mark off for the two halves, so we got to put that back on there. But got like an X in there, and you'll see how it looks when we drill it and turn it. It'll look quite a bit different. So now we can line this up again, make sure we got the full length. So now you can see, maybe, that you got even a gap to cut it, and we'll mark it, and there'll be enough wood to cover the tubes. So I'll do the top. You leave about a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch to make sure you can machine it. You see, I put my line back to get the 2 halves, and then we'll cut it right across there on the bandsaw. Since we're going to turn flatten the end, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. We'll just follow the line by hand with the bandsaw. So now we got the top half ready to saw. Measure the bottom half. Make sure we got everything the way we like it. So we got to cut a little off the bottom. So now we got the bottom ready to go. So normally what I do is I'll take the 2 ends that I've marked for the halves. Those will go back together like that. And that's the end I'll drill from, and I'll be sure to orient the drill press that these will be facing me. And then when I do the other end, I'll flip them over with the marks down so they're in the vise the same way. We'll keep this little cutoff. Might be an inlay some other day. So then what I'll do here is I will get this mask off for a moment. It's about 35 this morning. It's supposed to get up to 40 today. Good shop weather. But I got the kerosene heater going. I think we can turn it off now. Probably about 75 in here. This big kerosene heater will heat this place up in about 30 minutes. And then it's plenty warm enough with the shop coat and everything on. It stays warm with this tarp inside the garage. So to find the center of these, to put the drill bit, I just go from corner to corner with this little triangle. One there, one there. Doesn't have to be exact, it's pretty close. Remember, you're going to have a lot of waste on the outside because they're going from a square to a much smaller diameter round. So what I'll do is set these up with the X here, and I'll use a ice pick and this small hammer, and I'll bring that right to the center of the X, just a little tap. That way that brad point drill is easier to set it in that than to try to find out where it is. That there, got a little light here so I can see a little better. Now it's calling for an 8mm drill bit, which I got here. And put that in. Snug that in there. Then we'll mount these up in there with the mark for the 2 halves facing us in this little vise. Got it this way. So I like to have it so I can see the bottom where the drill comes out, so I can slow down and go through real slow so you don't get as much chip out. And you got to make sure to mount it in the vise so it's not over the metal when you go through and hit the metal. I've done that before. It's not good. And then they got to be straight. They can't be offset, or when you drill a hole, it's going to be real crooked. So you can use something like this. if you want to get it straight. I found that my eye is just as good. It's faster, so I just eyeball it so it looks pretty straight. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Just snug it down, and then you want to obviously lower the table until it tips right about there. We'll lock it down and we'll set this up. It's really not necessary. You could clamp this down, your work down. It's probably safer, but because it's so lightweight and the drills are sharp and the hole's not super big, I'm not using a Forstner bit or anything, I just put my hand on it and hold it in place. Let me get my dust mask. This drilling operation can generate quite a bit of dust in this hard wood, so best to wear a mask. Some of these hard woods you can be allergic to, and every time you can start the allergy, every time you use it again, you get more and more allergic to it. I can't work with leopard wood anymore because my eyes swell shut, my lips swell up. Well, it's right there in the center. Go down about 3/4 of an inch, back it out, clear the drill. Another 3/4 of an inch. As you can see, we're into the red portion of the wood now. You're getting pretty close to coming out the bottom. There we go. Oh, so that one's done. And we'll do the next one. Same thing. We'll put the mark up, snug it up, make sure it looks pretty straight. Find the center. So as you can see, we've got the two marked ends here, and we're going to insert the tube. So one of the things you want to do is check to make sure the tubes fit in the hole. So it looks like they go in pretty easy. So we will lay them over here again. I use this little punch to hold the tube while I put the glue on it. So we'll put a little glue on here, turn it around. Doesn't take a lot of glue. Just when you insert the tube in, rotate it. It helps smear that glue around. Then make sure it goes just past the edge, 1/16 of an inch or so. So you got, I don't know if you can see that, got a little lip there on both ends. And then we'll use this, mount this in the drill press, and we'll flatten that end. Put a little spray on there, cure that glue, set it aside, and repeat. We want to be sure to orientate that the same way. Go in the center. Use this as a guide. This is how it was mounted up in the drill press when we drilled the hole. So you don't have to go too far. Lock this down. One of the things you want to check to make sure that this goes up and down like that. It's loose. That means it's in a line with that tube. So what you want to do is mill it down so you can just see the brass showing there, shiny brass. And then keep that mark turn it 180. Come in the other side. Do that same thing. That way I'll keep that alignment where the drill's loose. So if that's too tight in there, that's just a brass sleeve in there, and this is hard steel, it's going to wear a hole in the side of it. So once again, come down to just the brass tube is showing both sides. That's going to be the tip of the pin. And we'll repeat that for the other one. And one of the reasons that I always insert the tube from the end that's marked is so you can get the grain closer together so it matches better. If you take it back a lot, it's not going to match. So I leave the more material to take off at the outside ends. You can see I took a lot more off than I took off of this side. Now we're ready to mount them up in the lathe. So I'll put the big bushing on first. That's for the cap. And this one's going to be the cap end. So it's going to go on here like that. And the brass tube will slide up over the smaller diameter. And then the middle bushing is going to be the big end towards the cap. So that'll go on like this. And then we'll put this one in. You see we got the two halves are going to be lined up here with each other. And then this is the cap bushing. So our goal here is to turn these down till it just gets the same diameter as the bushing. Now you can see it's this particular mandrel you can adjust in and out so you don't have to use spacers, but I leave it for most pens and just add a spacer or two on here. So I cover that up. Then I'll put a copper washer and the brass cap on there. And that just gets snug down. If you really tighten that down too much, it could bow this and then it'll be wobbly as it spins. It's going to spin at a pretty high RPM. And bring this up real close. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight lathe. You could buy more expensive ones that probably do a better job, but this works okay. Then I need a tool rest. So I have two different sizes. If I'm just doing a one tube pen, some of them only have one tube, I'll use a shorter one, but this one we're going to cover the whole distance. So put this in there, snug this down, and then get about a ½ inch away for the rough cut. We'll put that there. We'll turn the speed down as low as it goes. Make sure nothing flies off. Safety first. And get that going like that. And we'll spin it up. Now we gotta select some tools. I prefer using a carbide cutter. So let me grab one. You got your square tip and your round tip. I'll probably use the round one for this one. We'll see how it goes. Crank up the speed a little bit, probably around there. And then the tool's got a rest on here. Make sure it doesn't come off because it'll slap it down when it makes contact. And just at first when you start, you just want the barest pressure. Just to skim those corners off. And you keep this pointed about mid-range of that shaft. So you just go back and forth and work your way into it. You can get a little more aggressive as you get more of a round shape. You can always stop and take a look and see. You can see it started to take shape there. You can see what was looked like a cross is now forming like an eye. So we'll keep doing that until we get it down to the matching up to the bushings. When we get close, I'll start the video again. We'll see how it looks. So now you can see we've got this turned down. You can see the design's pretty cool from that inlay. It's now round, but you can see it's not quite down to the bushing yet on all 4 pieces. Focus on that. Come on, you. But you can see it's slightly diameter, slightly large. But I think it looks pretty cool now. What we're going to do is we're going to switch tools. Now we're getting down to the final portion. We're going to reach under here. Grab this set out. It's got a few different tools in here. And the one I used to finish, let me use this one here. Let's see what that tip looks like. And typically we're going to do the final shape with this tool. We will taper it down in the front, make it more pen-like, kind of bow it in the middle and then come back around. The goal is, we got that real tiny tip on there, is to make it so we can get it the exact same diameter as those bushings at the ends, right where the wood touches the bushing. That way when you put the metal components on, they're going to be exactly flush with the components. Anyhow, we'll get to turning on that and we'll see how that goes. So now you can see that I've turned it down. There's no real requirement on the shape except for where it meets the bushings. That diameter, you got to hold that for the metal components. But in between those 2 areas, it's entirely up to you and your creative. I've seen ones that are hourglass shaped. It also is going to make a difference if you're making it for a man or a woman. A woman with smaller hands might want a thinner, less stocky piece of wood. It's entirely up to you. This one particular pen is going to be for a man, so I've left it pretty thick and just necked it down where it touches the bushings. So you turn it, take a look at it. So once you get it turned, we're going to sand it down with 600 grit by hand. Turn the speed down so it doesn't burn us. And we'll sand it by hand till it feels, when you're rubbing your hand on it, turn it on about this speed. And when you put your hand on, you feel super smooth. See, this got a rough spot right in here. Well, when I put the 600 sandpaper on there, it'll take it off. The other thing we're going to do before we do that is we'll use our fingernail and make sure that there's not a step. I felt right here this tip's got to go down further. There's still a step between the bushings. The other ones are pretty much done, except for this tip. It's got to come down another, probably 15 thousandths, 20 thousandths of an inch. So I'll keep working that down. And then we'll remove this tool rest one with sand because we don't need it there. Get it out of the way. We'll get her sanded down. Okay, this is the part where we're sanding with the 600 grit sandpaper, as you see. Go up from the bottom. Sand it right down to the edge of those bushings. Feel how it feels. Oh, a little rough right there. The tip. Oh, that one's feeling pretty smooth now. So when you get to where it feels like it's just about done, just real light touch with the sandpaper. Skim it over. We'll polish it all the way to 12,000. This is 600. But you got to get the base work done. Remove it little by little. I think that tip is good. The top part needs a little more. Gotta be sure to wear a dust mask for this because that dust is fine. That will not be healthy to fill your lungs with that dust. Perhaps if you had a vacuum takeoff, which I don't have, it would be better, but it's getting pretty smooth now. Anyhow, that's the basic process to smoother down. So then, just to take a better look at it, we'll get a paper towel, or you can use a regular cloth towel, terry towel. Clean that dust off, and then we can take a look at it. See how we're coming along. I was just thinking of focus close up. Come on. There we go. So you see it's starting to look pretty good. Maybe the tip side. So next step is to use these pads. So as you can see, there's 9 pads, and there's the little chart. Goes from 1500 as the coarse to 12,000 as the fine. And we'll polish that wood until it's very glossy. So usually around 3,600 it starts looking glossy, and then the last 4 after that, the 4,000 through 12,000, those get it really glossy. Almost looks like it has a varathane or something on the outside. The rust, 1,500, 1,800, 2,400 gives you kind of a satin finish. And then they start getting glossy at the tan and the wine brown. When you finish with the wine brown, it's starting to look a little glossy. And that 4,000 grit, that really gets the shine pretty shiny. You could stop there, but if it's really hardwood, the harder woods with the tight grain seem to get more reflective. And with curly maple, we're going to go all the way to the 12,000 grit because we really want that to reflect that wave that's in the wood. We'll see how it looks. Anyhow, stay tuned. Well, now we're at the 3,600 grit. We've completed that. So the next one will be 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, then 12,000. You can see it's starting to get shiny. You can see there's some of the lines are starting to show here. We get that out of the lathe, they will reflect, and they'll move around those reflection lines due to how the light's refracted. Anyhow, it's starting to look pretty glossy. Well, it's going to get a lot more as we move along on the grit scale. Anyhow, we'll keep going, and we'll see what it looks like when we get to 12,000. So now we're at the 6. We've gone through the 6,000 grits complete, and you can see it's pretty glossy. If you stop, you can stop at the 3,200 or 3,600 grit and get a satin finish. This is curly maple and tulip wood. But if you want a satin finish, you would stop at 3,200 or 3,600. But we're going to go all the way to high gloss. You can see it's really starting to shine. The tulip wood polishes up real nice. Curly maple does too. Well, we'll keep on going. Well, now we got it turned to 12,000 grit. You can see it's quite glossy. And now it's time to assemble it. We'll take it off of this lathe and assemble it into the pen. See how it comes out. So you don't know how it's going to fit on the components until the very end. Some of them we'll have to press in. Matter of fact, most of them are pressed together. Some are screwed together. The assembly part's a part you want to do very carefully because certain parts are turned a certain way, so you don't want to press the wrong component into the wrong portion of the pen. They're very difficult to remove. They make tools to do that. I don't have the tools. This is I'm doing it the basic, inexpensive way. I keep the directions there, and it has good directions of where the parts go and what end. So when you remove this from the lathe, you want to be sure to keep the orientation correct. And sometimes there's a certain order that you have to put the pen pieces together in. So I'm going to read the directions carefully. Remove those bushings now so we can put the components in there. That one's out. That one's out. And this one. So let's set those aside. And then we'll do the assembly. Well, now we're ready to do the assembly. I'm going to press some of the parts together. So for this first stage, for the tip, we'll just use this set of, they make an assembly tools for these. I don't own them, but it's probably easier if you buy the correct tool. I just use this vise. You can use a vise, even a pair of table clamps, C clamps, that type of thing. The quick grip. You can use even something like this. It's got the soft rubber plastic tips on there. It doesn't mar up the part. Anyhow, the assembly says you got to put a little small amount of glue of your choice on the center band. So you got to slide the center band flat side first into, oh, we're supposed to cut a tenon in this, which I didn't do. Oh, that's cute. 9/32 tenon. We got to do that on this upper tube. So in order to fit this bushing in, it requires that we remove 9/32 of an inch down to the tube, all the way down to the brass tube with a sharp 90-degree corner. So I'm going to have to chuck this sucker back up in there. So I'll put the cap on there. I don't want to hit this bushing that goes in here. So I think we'll be okay. We'll put that back in the lathe and turn that down. There you can see from the dent, I put the pencil there. We'll turn the speed up and we'll cut that part out right down to the brass tube. So that's what it looks like with the tenon in it. That's where that little center band is going to slide up on. We're going to glue it on there. Oh, that only took a minute or so to do that. There it is, and this is the center band. Flat side's going to go on there, and we'll glue that on. So let me get that going with some cyanoacrylate. I'll let that dry. So it didn't hit the tube, but you can see on this surface here, you're going to want it to be quite sharp so it sits flat against that when you glue it on. And here it is glued on the center band. For sure, you're going to want to use very sparingly the cyanoacrylate glue so it doesn't leak out onto the pen portion. Or you'll be sanding this back down to get the glue off. So that's the first step. Get the cap back on this glue. So you notice I'm using a dispenser with very, very small tip, small hole, so I can put that on there accurately. The next one, it says push the cap nut in the opposite upper end barrel. That's this little piece here, this little brass piece. One edge of it is slightly smaller diameter, so that's the side that goes in first. I'm just going to use this little vise here with the wooden jaws. Put it in there so we can lose the mask. Too dusty now. Put that in there and that should press right in. Get it up flush. Then we'll be able to put the cap on there, and this side will be done. So you got the the pen clip and little cap goes through the hole, and then get it started. Screw it down a little ways, and then decide where you want that clip, what part of the thing you want it to cover. Depends on the grain and stuff, I suppose. It's not a particular spot it has to require to go, but tighten it down pretty snug in the position that you want it to be in, because you don't want it loose, because the little clip here, this part, over time will wear a mark in the wood. I've had them where they didn't tighten down, or they didn't stay tight, and that marked up the wood. I didn't like that. I didn't think it looked good. So that's that part's complete. The next side is the center coupler. It's this one here. The threads on one side and the tapered end that presses in on the other side. So on this one, you're not going to want to press right on these threads, because you can damage them, and then this mechanism will not screw on there. So I made a little piece of wood. Let me grab that. It's got some holes drilled in there where this is a clearance, and then you can press that in without damaging the threads on the end. Set that like that. And press that in. Like that. See how that looks. There it is. Looking good. You can see it's pressed in there. Then the tip goes in the other side. Yep, put the tip in the other side. So that one's also going to need to be pressed in, but the tip's a little sturdier. Obviously there's no threads on it. I think it'll fit in this vise. If not, I'll take it over the... Oh, just fits in here. And we'll squeeze that in. You got to make sure it gets started straight. Keep it straight by putting pressure on one side as it goes in. It's a little tough to put in for some reason. Inside that tube might have had a little glue in there. I probably should have checked that first. You know, there's some variation in the metal parts. Of course, I'm sure they're made in China. So sometimes they slide in real easy, and other times a little harder. But you want to make sure that you don't see a gap in there. You know, just for cosmetic reasons, it doesn't affect the operation of the pen. So that one looks good. Set this aside. We got the tip in, got the coupler in. Put the narrow end of the spring. So one end of the spring is a larger diameter than the other. So the small end goes on first. There's a little indent in this that keeps that from falling off afterward. Now we'll put that in here inside the pen, and we'll screw the twist mechanism over the top. That's where it goes in those threads that we had to protect. And now as you turn this, the tip will come out. This cartridge, let's see which one's in here. Oh, this is a Parker style cartridge. I usually replace these. You don't have to, but I usually do. I bought some from Germany. They're style, but they're German ones. I think they're a little nicer. Let me grab one of those. They're not required. I just like buy these by the bulk anyway. So this is a Schmidt refill made in Germany. So we'll test it, make sure it writes okay. Let me grab a pad. Yeah, it's real smooth rider. Put the spring back on. Enter the spring in. So that's how you would replace the refill. If you take that off and put that in there. Get that on there nice and secure. And then we're just going to press the two halves together. They have a little recessed area in here, as you can see, that the back part of this pen, you got to turn it down so it fits up inside there a little bit. And then let me retract that tip in. That way I don't damage the tip. And then I'm going to try to figure out where to line up those the grain again. Remember we kept those facing each other, and you can see the grain has this little line that matches up with the other half. So when it's retracted, we'll make those line up. And there you have the grain coming across and lining up with this half. And you can see this one, as you tilt it, there's stripes in there, and the reflection causes them to look like they're moving. So there's the pen all done. Now it takes about 2 to 3 hours to do a pen. See, they write real nice. Make a good gift for Christmas or birthdays or some holidays, or just if you know, for your friends, you can make those pens. And I think they came out looking all right. There's these is the tulip wood inlays, and this was just some scrap cutoff pieces that add a little contrast and a little color to the pen. I think it looks pretty good. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and that's what we did today. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.